we can do it again when you. Oh, this is the thing with the we can't move your headphones too much because it was it's cutting in and out a little bit.
Cutting it for all of us.
Just don't.
Do the loop-de-loop and pull, and your shoes are
We've
looking
got
cool.
it Jimmy rigged in such a adorably funny way right there.
Yeah, it's a bit of a human centipede situation.
It is. I'm surprised it worked. Honestly, I was worried that it would be one of them would just cut out altogether or something, but it seems to be okay.
Well, welcome to Squeeze.
Welcome to Squeeze.
Hello. Before we do anything, we always start with a song. So what's the first song that comes to your head?
Let It Be.
Let it squish, let it squish, let it squish, let it squish. Whisper clearly into the microphone. Let it squish.
Oh my God, I always love that.
I was hoping my harmonies would be better.
Oh, our harmonies were all terrible.
I always loved it. It was bad. That's why I started laughing at myself. I was like, oh gosh. It's always funny because we never know what we're going to do. So it's just, it comes out how it comes out. But
Yeah,
it's always,
first thought, best
it's always
thought.
a good giggle to the start of the pod.
Okay. Welcome, Lauren.
Welcome me.
Steinman.
Steeny
Man.
Steeny man.
Yeah.
I'm just a little steeny man.
He's just a little silhouette of a man. Lauren Steinman is my homie in clown and in friendship in normal world as well.
Normal.
And in nonprofit world.
Nonprofit world, part of the collective,
Let's go.
part of the cult.
Yeah.
And also just a really wonderful artist within the community, doing really cool things. And I want to pick your brain about them, but I also just like having you around because you're a good, fun, silly time. We did our show together in the fall called Clown Funk, which was hilarious. It was kind of blending of our two favorite things, which is music and clowning, which is really sweet. And yeah, the bandmates kind of got to be a part of that too, which was really cute. I love getting them in on the weirdness. And yeah, and then you're in your last year at UVic, vocal major,
Yeah.
music major,
Yeah.
with some really cool ideas about how you're going to go out with a bang that I want you to talk about too.
Yeah.
I'm just spieling off facts that I know about you. You're approximately 5-something.
Yes. Yeah. That's right.
You're teeny weeny eeny beeny.
I'm so small. But
So
I'm
small.
still 5-something.
5-something. And you also have pink hair like all of us, so you
Yeah,
fit
this
right
is it.
in.
I
Pink
love
hair
that.
gang.
Yeah, squish size, pink, on brand.
Yes.
Yes, our team talked to your team,
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
planned this out.
Exactly.
I almost put my hair and up like into little buns, and then I was like, no, I have to have it down.
Which is and then we all have it
Yeah.
down.
We showered for this.
Yeah.
This
I'm,
audio medium.
That's
I
right.
am wearing a hat for a reason, but it's fine.
Yeah. I was getting past the point where the hat wouldn't have helped me,
Oh no.
so I had to bathe. Yeah. I don't know if you guys also have thin girl hair.
No,
Yeah.
but the curly girl hair has the same problem because like if I the in between like on the lazy days, if I'm throwing it up and down, it like holds the weird shapes so much
Oh,
more,
yeah.
you know.
you
So
don't
like
get the
it just you
grease.
get the no, I don't. It doesn't get as greasy because
Her grease
my
has
curls
character.
because my curls like that.
like
Like
the
they like the
grease.
hair oil. They like the in between times. Like if I
Yeah.
wash it too much, it's like frizzy lion hair.
Mhm.
It gets really big and poofy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got that greasy,
Me too.
thin hair.
Yeah, it's like very like 2006 scene girl sticks to the everything.
Yeah, I gave myself an undercut, cut off a whole layer, and it's still thick as hell. Like it's
Damn.
ridiculous.
That's crazy.
She thick,
I miss
bro.
it though. I'm growing it back now.
She got that thick hair. We got that thin hair.
So, Lauren, would you consider yourself an artist or a storyteller?
Like either do I have to pick one or the other? What?
The word storyteller.
What?
Says the storyteller.
I know, but there's like a running.
What is that?
There's like, we're storytellers.
Is this a
we
TikTok
just get to
trend?
tell stories for a living. It's a joke on one of the podcasts that I listen to.
Oh really?
Oh.
It's a
Oh
little
man.
ridiculous. Anyways,
Yeah.
yeah. What would you like consider yourself as like your favorite mediums right now? Because I feel like you do a little bit of everything. Like, how would you pitch yourself as an artist to someone?
Oh my gosh, I don't know. I think I would say that, like, I guess I do some visual art, but I kind of just do that for fun. So I feel like I
Mhm.
wouldn't really I wouldn't put that in like what I do. I feel like I would say I'm a clown and I'm a singer.
Yes.
Yeah, and I guess I'm an actor, but I don't I don't do like film. I guess I do plays.
Dude. Yeah.
Still
Actor,
acting.
clown,
Anyway, same thing.
singing,
Yeah.
musician.
Producing.
producing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Starting a little production company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah, I want to get more into like visual art and stuff. I actually love sculpting, but that's just Yeah.
Very tactile, very relaxing. Yeah.
I do love a good I just like I need a good clay.
Slab
Like
of
someone
clay.
needs to give me a good like cheap clay, you know?
Cheap.
Like a wheel on
I
a
need
wheel.
cheap
Do you want
clay.
to like do
Clay
the
is
pottery wheel?
expensive.
It is quite
It's like
expensive.
so fucking expensive.
Mhm.
So then if someone was giving you clay, shouldn't you make a call to action, give you nice clay?
okay, if someone was just gonna like give me clay, yeah, like
Yeah.
give me the good shit, yeah.
Yeah.
You heard that. If
That's what
anyone's
this,
out there
that's
that has
what
a
this
surplus of nice clay,
So anyone listening
Yeah.
has
high caliber
surplus
clay, Colin,
clay.
high
we know a
caliber
lot of
clay.
ADHD creatives, so
Please give me
we
clay.
know hobbyists who like pick up and change hobbies like crazy. I wouldn't
I
be surprised if someone had
literally
clay.
need so
I
much clay. I
came
want clay.
into the bedroom the other day, and Isaac was just watching YouTube videos on how to harvest natural clay, and I've never seen him sculpt in his life.
There's
Okay,
a lot of
so
clay here,
me
so
and
that
Isaac
that
are
is
gonna
there
go
is
out.
yeah.
Get some clay.
Yeah,
I think you gotta like do stuff to it though.
you do have to treat it, I think, if you want it to stay solid, because it might get crumbly wumbly.
There's a clay
Yeah,
on this,
you
a
gotta
lot of
do
clay on this
something to it.
property.
And if it wants
Yeah.
to withstand heat. But this is not a pottery pottery
Yeah, we-
podcast.
Pottery
You
cutter.
tell, there's some
Tap-
neurodivergence
tip-
in the room. Can you tell?
Pottery.
You go
I do
down.
find the like I can only hear myself out of one ear, and it's
Oh.
definitely distracting the heck out of me. I don't know if I can fix that, because I do think it's gonna
That
make
one
me
didn't
not
feel like it
present.
was going all the way in.
Do you have another pair of headphones by chance?
No, but I do have on the desk there. There's the little jack things. Maybe trying a different adapter in the middle might help.
Sorry to interrupt, but
No, it's all good. Yeah, if you swap that piece, yeah, that might make a difference because it just didn't seem to want to go click in as much as the others did. So try one of those ones and see if that makes it easier. It might work if it's not too wobbly. Sometimes there you go. That might work.
Is that better?
Is it better
I
for you?
can't hear myself at all. Give
Third-
me a break.
Third adapter.
Just give me a break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's definitely the headphone thing.
It's out of both ears.
Yeah, there you go. You just have to
Yay.
don't jiggle too much.
Don't move. Okay. So I'm going to try and make a little more coherent interview questions than spit random facts at me. Why did you decide to study music?
I've been more of an actor. In high school I went to an art school and I was in like a theater program, and I always did plays and stuff, and then I was like, I'll try a musical because I was in choir like growing up, and then I don't know, I was going to go into musical theater, and then I did a summer program, and one of my teachers told me that it's important to like train classically. It kind of gives you a good foundation to have a really strong, solid voice, and then you can kind of go into musical theater after that. And I think the only sort of thing that I knew about was to go to a university and get a degree in music. I partially wish that I had done like a conservatory program. But yeah, so I almost went into fashion weirdly. But I didn't. And then yeah, I've always loved singing, and I was always good at it, and I was like, wait, I could just like do this for a living? That's crazy. So yeah.
Cool. And no regrets?
Some regrets.
Some regrets.
Some regrets. But
Yeah.
like, you know what? I'm glad I have a degree. Like I feel like having a degree, and now I can like go and like do a master's or something, you know?
Yeah, and you teach music too, so
Yeah.
that really helps.
That's another thing. Yeah, like I don't think I'd be able to teach if I went right into musical theater.
Nope.
So, and like now I don't even know if that's really what I want to do. So,
I mean, I think musical theater is very open-ended. It works this like insane work ethic into you. So I said no very quickly there, but I actually do think musical theaters can be like teachers as well. Like they can teach a
Totally.
lot.
Yeah.
They do a lot of vocal training as well.
well, yeah, I
but
think
it's like you mean like technically.
yeah, like just
licensed.
teaching singing, like I just feel like you don't get as much of an in-depth. It's not as in-depth when you're going into like a musical theater program. You're like teaching, you're doing like dancing and I think if you like I mean you probably could, but I just think that like a lot of my training in my school is you do master classes where you sit there and you watch other people perform and watch teachers work with them, and that's basically like watching a lesson.
Totally.
And that's like so much of what my degree is. So I feel like that really gave me like a good foundation on like how to teach someone, because I watched so many people get taught and yeah.
That's awesome.
And there's a lot of people who in the musical theater world that did go the route of like really working the voice first too, because it is a lot on your vocal strength to be able to like do multiple shows a night, belting, musical theater style singing and stuff like that. And so there's definitely like so many different avenues to go about it. But
the endurance part of singing is actually I think what the hardest part is.
And with the dancing and stuff
Taking
too. Like,
care, yeah, but like taking care of your instrument when like all my fucking guy friends are all just like putting their instrument away in a case for like 2 days and they don't have to think about it, and I'm like obsessively watching everyone who coughs around me to like not get near me, and I'm
or like talking too much and staying up late at a party or
my
whatever,
gosh, I
jamming
know.
too. You want to jam all night like everybody else, but
you're
your voice
sharing the mic with people
won't
and
be
you're
good
like
the next day. Like
yeah, it's so stressful. Like
it's hard.
yeah, I feel like it's your instrument is your body. Like it's like a guitarist can like smash his guitar and just go buy a new one.
Yeah,
like
assholes.
if they have the money.
yeah.
But oh man, I know so many guitarists I couldn't imagine.
A fairly reasonable guitarist would totally smash his guitar and just get a new one.
But yeah, like I can't do that. Like
No.
if I fuck up my voice, it's like, well,
Yeah.
That's why I got so freaked out last year. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too, is like I had like I get prone to like vocal dehydration if I'm not really careful, so I have to be really diligent, and that's why I don't drink alcohol much, if at all. And but the hardest thing for me is when I'm out, like, you know, when we used to go to Revelstoke and with the big band where I had to belt a lot and do multiple shows in a weekend. You're also on the road with all your friends, and you just want to like hang out after the show and like talk and be silly all night. And like I was in a band with Danny, like, you know, so like there's no being quiet. You're just, you know,
Danny Jackson,
going back and forth and being ridiculous and whatever. So we would go and do, you know, shows out of town, and that would be the hardest part, would be like going to bed so that you can do the exact same thing the next night.
It's so intoxicating. And I've actually like a lot of the TikToks I get really sapped into are like vocal health routines and regimes from like the Broadway people, like the woman who's I'm blanking on her name right now, but she's the lead in Wicked on Broadway right now. Like her routine, like she's a full-on Olympic athlete, but she's like racing or like performing, you could say, like twice a day, every day.
I
6 days
remember
a week.
reading something about Celine Dion having like Morse code on the phone with her husband in there when she was touring. Like she would like that she just like didn't want to talk much, so they had like signals or taps or something on the phone. Like there's and like Sarah Murphy, like when she's
saved her
sick
life.
and has, or like not sick, but like there were times where she, you know, her voice was like strained and she had multiple shows to do, and she'd just be steaming religiously.
Oh my god!
She's like, I just have my face in the steamer, you know, it's fine, I'll be all right. I just gotta get through these next couple shows and steam the shit out of myself, and I'll be okay.
Totally.
Like,
Did they
steaming
teach you any like support for your voice in school?
No, not really.
That seems crazy to me.
Yeah, I feel like not. I mean, like, I guess like if you're like, I guess like
that should be a whole course.
It's not like something that's like, we are going to teach you this thing now. It's kind of like, you know, you're talking to your voice teacher and they'll like give you tips.
Yeah.
But it's not like, it's not like a curriculum thing. But it's like the classes that I do, I don't do any like I do like ensembles where we have like, all of the voice majors are like in an ensemble, and we like do various different things. Like sometimes we do group stuff, sometimes we do like a concert that's like solo stuff, but it's not like, we don't have, like, I wish that they had a vocal pedagogy class.
Okay.
Like, that's something that I, like, always thought would be really interesting. And just, like, how to teach singing. And, like, and I think that would kind of come into it of like
Understanding the muscle.
understanding the muscle and like just like and like what do you do when you're sick, like all those types of things, and just like understanding the voice more in a way that's not just like, okay, sing this song now, this is how you sing the song better.
Isaac would tell me when he was in music school that he always could spot a vocal major because they had a scarf around their neck, and I spotted you.
Yeah, that's the thing for sure. I know that, like, you know, there's just so many, you know, it's important to keep your lung strength. Like I would always hum like unobtrusively while I'm like swimming, you know, just like to kind of strengthen that, or like, you know, remedies and different things, and like lots of herbal things and tinctures and things like that. But like, yeah, that would be such a good addition to the program. Like if they actually went in depth into that too, and like, I mean, taking care of your vocal cords is so important.
Oh, there's so many things about the music program that could change, but
I hear that from a lot of musicians that I've known over the years that went through like university music programs have said that like it really like sucked the love of it out of them for like that's
totally.
Anytime I bring it up to anyone that's what they say, and that's so unfortunate.
I know.
It definitely made me feel better that I couldn't afford to do that, because I was like, okay, well, like
I'm too poor for trauma.
I have enough already, so I don't need to collect that kind of trauma too. The singing was the thing that was the escape, so I couldn't imagine like to have that, you know, being like, you know, having that tarnish from my love of it.
I totally relate.
I think there's got to be like a balance, because I think there is sort of a point though where you do have to kind of push through and do things, like do music that you don't love to do and study things that you aren't necessarily passionate about in order to learn a certain way, and you kind of have to go through like a phase. But a lot of it is just like the stuff that we learn, like the music theory and stuff that we learn is just so disconnected from what we actually do.
Yeah.
And practice.
It's just like, oh, here's a German sixth chord. Like, what the fuck is that? I could not tell you what that is.
Yeah.
I could not tell you what that is. Now I could not identify it. I have no idea.
That's
Literally no
the funny
idea.
thing. Yeah, theory was always like, I was like, oh my god, I can't handle this. But I don't even, and that was before I knew I had ADHD or had meds. But even now with meds, I still feel like music theory is exhausting.
It's just because it's so disconnected. Like a whole year of my music theory was just like learning 4-part harmonies of like writing like, you know, like bass, tenor, alto, soprano parts, and it was based on like theory from like 1700. Like it was so outdated, and it was just like you can't. It's like they have like the flowchart of the chords, but then these specific note intervals can't be beside each other, and
it feels so mechanical, not human. It doesn't
and
feel
a lot
organic.
of people I've spoken to said that when they come out of it and they're like, I have all this skill, I know how to do all these things, but like jamming and improvising is very difficult. I don't know how to do that. I can't do that, and that's the road I came up through. I don't know how to. So it's always fun, like trading knowledge with those folks, you know.
Yeah, totally. I feel like. I just think that that music programs, because most music programs that are in like universities are classical programs. There are programs that have like jazz programs and more contemporary. There's more colleges and stuff that have contemporary programs. Like like the conservatory is wonderful because they have like
contemporary music school.
They have the contemporary music school, and I think it's really cool. But I feel like they need to start to recognize that like, if you are going, even if I want to train classically, like it's super unreasonable that I'm actually going to be able to make any money like being a full-time classical musician.
World of singing is super tight and competitive too.
It's
Like
super
classical music, it's crazy.
It's insane.
And it's also, I think there's a lot of like weird social rules, I feel like, that come along with it. Like you have like to dress a certain way, you have to you have to tone down looks to a degree, like to be in that classical realm, I feel like. But yeah, I'm glad that the VCM has that, and they are bringing more and more like different minded things in. Shout out to Nathan Med and the VCM. But Nathan Shelby, another lovely Nathan, is doing a Mechanics of a Rap Flow series there, and it's been super great. That's always been one of his dreams. Is like, I want to bring hip hop to the VCM.
This tongue chart, and it's changed my life.
Yeah.
Oh, the vowel chart.
I think it's more based on consonants because a lot of rap is consonant based.
Oh yeah, that would make sense.
But it literally is a chart that like at one end of the chart is the front of your mouth and the other is the back, and it just places all of the consonants and vowels along that like the line so that you know when you're writing a flow, you're not asking too much of yourself.
Yeah,
And
Nate
I've really tried to
is
think of
also
that.
self-taught, so he doesn't hasn't picked up these things from any kind of like the like chart that you'd get at school or whatever. Like this
But I
stuff he's learned
loved
just
that.
from like diving into hip hop himself and learning himself. And
And
when we played in a band, he taught himself the drums
and that's such a human approach to like learning too. Like I found I could relate so much to his experience. And also like when I went to college, when I was learning just from people that were actively like working in the field at the same time, they weren't like locked in this like curriculum classical mindset that's so like removed from the actual playing of the music. Listening to someone's like story of like they played so much that they learned by playing so much, and now they want to tell you how to use better skills to play more. As like we lose that term play so quickly when it becomes like a very uptight, you know, structured thing. And I understand that they have to structure it somehow because they want to like empower you to study it and to like to value it. It feels like they had to like turn it into like a systematic approach, right? So that like you could get a degree like in vocal singing, but there's a balance there that I feel like is still very far from getting right.
Yeah, they really. I think I think there's a way that they can kind of combine like classical.
Yeah, like
training.
have the jam world meets that world.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
like they're have like a exterior jam nights outside of the program where people get into that realm.
I think even just like the theory itself of just like let's learn classical theory, but then like also let's learn how does this theory like really apply to the
it.
music
Yeah.
that we're doing, and like how because one of my voice teachers, love him to death, he always says to me, it's just music, it's just singing. Like I've been doing more contemporary singing, and I was like, it's been tripping me up because I've never really trained my mixed voice and my belt. Like I've never trained that, I've just always done it. And so it's been like interesting for me to like explore that. And he was like, oh, what do you mean it's just singing? And I'm like, yeah, it is just singing,
No
and
way.
it is just music, but I feel like I don't know, it's
This is someone who works at the school.
yeah, I mean,
This
I
is
think
a professional
Yeah.
educator
Well,
saying this.
but
I feel that's the thing. I feel like it's never just singing, and that's also, I have to say, that is a stigma in the music industry that pisses me the fuck off so much. Because like you go to school to be a voice major. Not every singer does that, of course, but some singers go through a university level program to be a vocal major. And men in the industry for years discount women who only sing. If you don't play an instrument, you're discounted and kind of like seemed as like less of a musician because you
Yes.
only sing, but the voice is an instrument.
Oh,
it's a
I get
valid
it. Even
instrument,
in
and
my
it's fucking-
band, they're like, "Your life's so easy. You just get to walk up to the mic." And I'm like, I am fighting off like
Kidding me?
7 like infections at all times, trying so hard to like keep myself healthy.
Not to mention the work that goes into being able to walk with that. When you just walk up to the mic, it sounds effortless and like you're just walking up to the mic. You know?
well, I think a lot of it too is like you can't see me playing my voice, so
Yeah.
it doesn't look as impressive.
Yeah.
Like you see someone like riffing on the guitar, you see their fingers and you're like, that's crazy. But like I sing like a run or something and it's like that sounded good, but you can't see all the mechanics
effort that
of
goes
like
into
went
that, yeah.
into it, and like all the practice that went into that. Like it's
also just so much space holding. Like being like a singer in a band is like the version I'm talking about, but I'm sure like singing in like a one-on-one, what's it called?
like classical sense, like
yes, I'm just
Solo.
solo,
yeah.
but like whatever the word is for those things. Performances, that's the name of them.
art songs.
No,
The
like
jurying thing.
the like
What?
the
What are you trying to say?
the like you know the thing that you're gonna do
Arias?
at the end of your
Is it like a jury performance or something? Like
I'm so-
what do they call it
I
at the
don't
end?
know.
what's the performance you're preparing for right now? What's
Grad
the name
recital.
of it? Recital.
Oh,
recital.
recital
Oh,
was the
sorry.
word you couldn't find.
Sorry.
Your brain was like, no, you don't get this word.
My brain is like no right now. But yeah, just like that my experience is just like when you are the singer too, you are holding the space, you are directing people's attention, you are like, you know, it's like I'm like sweating and dying. Like I just found a clip from Dunstock at the end where I like fall to the ground because I'm just so tanked.
Yeah.
Also, that was a crazy day, but like I
You were
remember
hosting that whole
everyone
thing and
looked at me
everything, too.
like, "Are you okay?" And I even watching the video, I didn't fall in a chill way. I'm
No,
like,
you were like,
really,
I'm done.
Done.
You also like did like acrobatics that day and were in the sun all day hosting, emceeing, and doing like silly goofy stuff,
It was a bit silly.
being
I'm
the
not gonna do that
organizer,
again.
and then performed the whole set.
I was hosting the whole show. I like talked all day and
Mhm.
then
Yeah.
sang a full set. My voice was not great at the end of that. Listening back, anyways,
I'll help you host
so
next
much.
time.
Thank you,
Yeah.
both of you.
Yeah,
You
I,
need to
I
help
would
me
be happy to host.
share the voices.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can trade off, then nobody gets worn out.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, before I get into the next question, okay, my next question was, what's your experience been like being a musician in Victoria, or just like an artist in Victoria and like the Victoria art scene specifically?
Did you grow up here?
Yeah.
No, I'm from Calgary.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. I think it's been really beautiful. I mean, I never really interacted with the music scene as much in Calgary in the same way that I have in Victoria, but
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, I think it's just been it's such a beautiful energy out here, and I think the jams, like all the jams that we have, are really special because I don't think that happens in some, like, in a lot of spaces.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like it's really interesting to be like all my classical music friends are so different
Mhm.
from like the sort of like jammy hippie vibes that I like
Mhm.
hang out with.
Mhm.
Like I think that it's so different.
Mhm.
But there is like a pretty prominent classical scene in Victoria.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, like we have the Opera House
Yeah,
and the
I had a
Conservatory
coworker
Well,
who was in the
and
opera.
UVic. Yeah.
our opera company is one of the best opera companies in
the
Canada.
country.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's like it
It's
is.
legit.
It is.
That's what I meant by the classical realm was very competitive.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's been really interesting to kind of live in both worlds.
Yeah.
I
I did not peg you as a vocal major when I met you. I was like, oh, like you showed up at a party
Yeah,
with
me
Les and you were like jamming with us, and I was like, you're one of us. And then I was like, you're one of them.
Yeah, I actually
And then
would
you
have
were a
pegged you
clown,
as
and I
a
was like,
theater major.
You're not
Yeah.
one of
My-
anything.
I would have
Totally.
guessed theater major.
Yeah.
more
I mean,
than-
I'm like I've always been a theater kid.
Yeah.
So.
An
But-
enigma.
But yeah, I do feel like it. I feel very different from a lot of the classical musicians that I hang out with. Like they're just very straight edged people, and I think there's such a beauty to that. But I do really appreciate the like coming to, you know, more of the like chill, jazzy funk community that we
Yes.
have.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like the casualness invites like a different element of creativity.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
it's really beautiful. I think I want so badly to bring that into the classical world.
Yes.
So
So does Isaac. He talks about that a lot.
How do you think you could
Mm.
merge those two worlds?
That's such a hard question. I really think that a lot of it would be like bringing in, like you'd have to bring in like workshops. Like if
Mhm.
you're doing, like for example, there's a class that I take that's like I was talking about a bit before, where it's like we call it voice ensemble. All the voice majors are together and we do various different concerts. Like sometimes they'll choose like a specific work and like do the whole work, or sometimes they'll be like, oh, we're just gonna do like a Remembrance Day concert and do a bunch
Yeah,
of like solos and that kind of stuff. But like within those classes, like and within those spaces where there's a lot of like singers together, or I guess you could bring it into like instrumentalists in general, but like bringing in like improv and stuff, like what that is, and like
improv is huge.
and just like I don't know, I think breaking the barriers somehow of like, because I feel like it really feels like an us and them thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it really
for
does.
sure.
And like I feel like I'm in both sides. It's
Yeah.
weird.
It sounds like just one thing that I was noticing when you were explaining what experience you do have is you're always singing other people's work.
mhm.
Doesn't
Mhm.
sound like there's
That's
a
the
lot of
thing, yeah.
invitation to write your own work.
No.
Therefore, how would you fully find your own voice?
Yeah.
And that's kind of the flip side of the casual side, is it comes like from people writing their own music, which I feel like gets you a little more humble,
Mhm.
and in that like loosens some of the pressure but also adds some of the pressure. But maybe that could be an element too. It's
Definitely
just like
learned a lot through that
songwriting
process.
It
too.
makes me think of like the only time I think really in classical music, there are times when you do kind of like there are very specific places when you can improvise. It's very specific, but it would be cool to explore that more, to like bring
I
it-
would love to see the hybrid of classical vocalists and hip hop people.
Yeah.
Because that is where you could easily throw in
Mhm.
classical vocal samples of sorts, like doing a run here and there
Yes.
in hip hop instrumental, in hooks in between rap verses, underneath the
Mhm.
rap verses,
Yes.
even.
Yeah.
Like, and it's a genre that it slides into naturally. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't clash at all. Like, it just fits. It's so great when you
Yeah.
hear these little classical samples in
yeah.
hip hop and stuff like that.
Well,
Totally.
and I think like classical music, you're so taught to do everything exactly as it is on the page.
You're
Like,
replicating it.
It's like it's
Mhm.
yeah, you can't do a single note any different than what is on the page
Mhm.
unless you're in those moments where they give you the opportunity to do so, like in certain opera singing, like certain arias from certain time periods, they would kind of let people just do whatever you want. You know,
Explore.
people can explore, and you can kind of in opera. I think there's a little bit more space for that.
That definitely makes me understand why vocal major students would feel a little burnt out creatively after, because you're not
Oh,
really
yeah.
getting to feed that creative need
There's
to
no creative.
explore your voice and create your own
It's a
sound.
lot of
and
digestion
you're-
and not a lot
it's
of
great
like
learning. It's a great tool
Yeah.
and a great
Mhm.
knowledge to have. But yeah, it's like you have to wait to tap into your creativity until you're off hours or after you're done, and
Yeah.
a lot of the time your energy is probably pretty worn at the end of a day.
Well, Lauren
Yeah.
seems to make time for it. She does a lot of shit on the side.
yeah. Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah. I feel like that is what really I struggle with this. I've struggled with so much in this program is just how. Like, I am a very creative person, and
Mhm.
I don't do well when someone tries to put me in a box.
No.
Yeah, my ADHD could never.
Yeah,
I'd be
yeah,
like,
right,
oh, I
I
have to
know.
do the same thing every time.
I know it's so it was so hard for me. Like, I took a year off a couple years ago because I couldn't stand how rigid and colonial the program was, and just like I was just like I just can't do it anymore. I
Can't
feel
relate
so
to it.
stuck. I didn't feel
Yeah.
I didn't feel like I related to it. I took a year off, but after taking that year off, I realized that I actually really had learned so much, and I had become so much of a better singer and musician.
You got to
That sounds like
integrate
it. Was a good
it.
thing then,
Yeah.
having that year off to reflect.
Totally.
Sometimes you just need to break away from it.
Yeah, so I think there is so much. Yeah, I think there's so much to be learned in these programs, and there's so much that I like that you don't feel like you fully understand until you step outside of it.
Mhm.
Totally.
And there's so much to be learned, and I just think that they just need to gear it towards what we're actually doing as musicians. Like, what are your students gonna actually
Yeah,
be
what are their
doing when they
goals
get out of
after
it?
This? Yeah.
Yeah, like
How do
some
we get
of
them
us,
closer
yeah.
to that world
Some of
quicker,
us,
so
yeah.
you don't burn out and give up on it like Isaac did,
Mhm.
and then join a pirate band.
Yeah, right.
It
It's
suits him.
well, and I think that there are a lot of people that are gonna just go straight into the classical world. They're gonna do like the classic trajectory of like a classical singer is you do your undergrad, you go and do your masters, and then you do young artist programs,
Yep.
and then you start auditioning, and that's just like the trajectory of a classical singer.
Yeah.
But not everyone's gonna do that.
Well,
Mhm.
I have a friend that's done that, and bless her heart, she's a total sweetie pie, but she's lonely. She doesn't
That's the thing.
really have a community of musicians. She's like coming to me to like help connect her with all these people, and she wants to do madrigals.
Oh my god, I
need
want to do
To connect
madrigals.
her with
I
you,
love
so
madrigals.
you were the first person I thought of. I was like,
That's perfect.
absolutely.
I love madrigals.
Yeah, and she wants to have a madrigal group where we all just get together and sing these like beautiful.
Yeah,
my
working
God,
on your own
yes.
stuff, only focusing on solo situations or like chasing a specific goal that has that kind of pipeline ladder pathway that you're like, I have
Yeah.
to do this and this and this. That can be like really isolating and lonely.
Well,
and-
totally.
I feel like so much of music for me, it's all about just playing with other people. Like I've
Mhm.
struggled to make any music by myself.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Very
That's why
bad.
I've been really pushing myself to try to do more.
Yeah.
And like, even just recording myself at home, like
Breaking down the resistance.
agonizingly, like, getting over the moment where I feel weird about it or like I'm critiquing my shit too hard, because in a room full of people, like it's very easy to see that the vibe is going well, the song is
The
flowing well,
connection.
Yeah.
but while alone, it's very easy for the inner imposter to rip apart what I'm doing before it sees the light of
Totally.
day, like.
Yeah, it's a very it's weird how they idolize that type of like life. They're like,
Shit, yeah.
they're like, oh, they always say like, oh, the people that are you see all these famous opera singers, and it's so just like, oh, I want to be that because that's what I'm training for. That's what the videos they show you, the recordings they show you are all these wonderful opera singers, and that's what. And then they tell you just have to get used to like sitting in a practice room alone, sitting in your hotel room alone, and they kind of mention that, but like, I don't feel like they really actually talk about like how
the effect it has on you,
like how unfulfilling that could be to someone. To someone,
to people who need connection, like someone like me, that would probably be really hard for my mental health. And if I could see myself like, you know, hitting a really hard burnout point just from the lack of connection to other people, because there's only so much you can get from the applause of a crowd and whatever when you're going home alone at the end of the night and every night, and you're not having those community times,
aftercare.
Well, and you can't, like, you're a singer, you can't go out and like go do stuff because you're not allowed to talk.
Dude, my bedtime's like 1 now. Like, I can't be out later than 1 these nights.
Yeah, like
it
just
will be fucked for rehearsal.
Yeah, it's crazy how I remember, like, I used to be in the performance program, and I'm not anymore. I'm just in like a general music program. Because the performance program is so pushed on people. Like, they're like, oh, are you going into performance? Are you going into performance?
Interesting.
And it's
culty.
Kind of culty. Well, the thing about the performance program, and like, not to really shit on the UVic program, but you don't get anything from being in the performance program. You do this extra class called IPS, which, if anyone listening to this knows what that is, it sucks. It's bad. And
IPS is the pips.
It's
Ips
terrible.
the
It's like, you do like these master classes where it's like the same thing as what our regular master classes are, which is where someone goes up and performs, and then the teacher works with them while the students are there. But instead of it just being, normally it's just your instrument. Instead of that, it's like all of the performance students are together and you watch, like, but then it's like a voice prof will work with like a saxophone player, and it's like, in theory sounds cool, but in practice is like,
that needs a lot of like support to work.
Yeah. It was always so rough. And like, so you get that class, and then you also do a grad recital. And the grad recital is graded. So it's kind of like a pass or fail thing, but it's graded. You have to do very specific things. That's the only things you get as a performance major. Also on top of just like more pressure. Yeah. That's all you get. And so for me, I was like,
it's a title, really.
It's a title, and they really like push it. And I think if you want to be a classical singer, and that's like the trajectory you want to go into, it's good because that's what you're going to be doing. Yeah. Like, but if that's not necessarily what you want to do, like for me, I just was like, so I could just not be in the performance program, not be stressed, not have to do this stupid class. And then I realized I can do a grad recital and do whatever the fuck I want.
I have a question about, because you are so immersed in like our community approach to music and like, you know, the jam scene and whatnot, and I'm like, what part of all of that and all of the extra art that you do on the side, like, just like the specifics from that, what keeps you sane? Like, what are you bringing in from that to your professional career too? Like, how is that helping balance?
Oh, I don't know. That's a good question. I feel like I just think a lot of it is like the acceptance of other people, that I think is an acceptance of like being different and being weird as fuck, and like,
that is so important,
you know, because I just think in the classical world, it's like you can't, it's like no one's weird.
Like, well, maybe they might be weird, but weird in different ways.
They're weird in a different way. Like,
they're weird in secret.
They're quirky. You know, like, they're quirky, but they're not like weird in the same same level. Like,
I get what you're
Robert, your shoes are cuffed too high today.
And it's just like, because I remember a while back I was like sitting with my music friends, and I had just been hanging out with a bunch of theater kids, and theater kids are fucking weird.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
I love the weirdness of theater kids.
Like, so fucking weird, and I love it. I thrive off that. And I was just sitting with my music friends, and I was just like, I mean, I love them all. Like, I literally love them all so much, and I do find like other joys in being with them. But I just had this moment of like, God, I need to be with some like weird fucking people right now.
Yeah.
Like, I need to
you
be
had
with
to
people-
express a part of you that wasn't able to be
Well, and
expressed.
a lot of them too are like sort of are very straight edged. They
Yeah.
don't like smoke weed. They don't really drink that much.
Mhm.
Boo.
And
Are
like,
you neurodivergent also?
Yeah, I have ADHD.
Okay, so I
Yeah.
was gonna say, do you feel like you have to mask with them, and that is exhausting?
See, I've never masked.
Oh, okay.
I've always been the type of person that's like, fuck it. I'm
Yeah.
gonna do whatever the fuck I want, and I don't care. But
Yeah.
in some ways, yes. Like
Mhm.
some ways, yes.
Or like you feel like you have to tone it down. or
Yeah, I
something?
definitely don't
Yeah.
tell them everything about like my nights out.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
You know, I'm like, oh, I had a crazy night last night, but I'm not like, I did a bunch of Mali and it was crazy. Like,
I slept with 7 of my friends.
I'm not like I slept with 8 people in the last week. That's crazy. But like, I definitely do tone it down.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. They're just very, yeah. But there's this like repressed part of themselves that I can see.
And that
Mhm.
repression in them represses it a part of you too.
Yeah,
'Cause
totally.
When everyone's holding themselves back, then you don't feel like you want to be like over the top and
That's
make
why
them
I
uncomfortable.
feel like it is important to like to be able like to, on some level, obviously like too much isolation isn't a good thing, but being able to sit with yourself to know yourself and like know that who like, decipher like who, because for me I did a lot of masking, and so it took a lot of sitting alone with myself to pull apart like who I am versus who am I being to feel like I belong in these
Totally.
situations, you know?
Yeah.
So like at the same point as like the community is so important, that you know, having that strength in self that you seem to have where you're like, I don't give a fuck, I'm gonna be who I am.
Yeah.
That is such a strong thing to develop.
It's a relationship.
Yeah.
It's like a relationship that needs care, just like any other relationship in your
Mhm.
life. And it benefits from, you know, the applause, like the being on stage and connecting with other people through your art form. But like you have to counterbalance it as intensely. If you want to be an intense bish that wants to go out on big stages and like get all that energy, I feel like you have to match that with like the self-care that you want to give yourself, because that's going to put you on this like super high level of endorphins.
Oh, yeah.
And like all of the serotonin that you could ask for,
Oh,
and
for
it's
sure.
going to inevitably dip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've definitely had those moments where and recently even where like it's hand in hand where like the disconnection from self and all that does disconnect me from performing, and vice versa. The disconnection from performance disconnects me from myself sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where then it you really do have to do like that self-care and self-hype, and like, you know, get back to that version of yourself that can just barrel out onto the stage.
just-
And
Yeah.
It's a
fierce.
responsibility.
Yeah.
I think kind of like I think that having the spaces that we have where we can be weird and like do these weird
so
jams,
good.
and I think that really has helped me to like
yeah.
be able to then just like go on stage and be like serious.
Yeah.
I don't know, just being
Ciphers
able to be
and
weird.
freestyle circles and improvising
Yeah.
lyrics was a huge thing for me. Like that was where I got any confidence to be able to do something, because
Totally.
I was like, oh, okay, I know I can sing, but also now like, I can feel confident because I've like pulled off this thing, you know. And I'm like, I know I can, in a pinch, everything will be fine, you know.
Yeah, I just really wish that like I there's just so many of my friends that they're just so uptight about things, and I just get so frustrated sometimes because
You just want
I'm
to shake them up and throw them into a
Yeah,
pile of hippies and
I
see
know,
what happens.
I'm just like, fuck, man. Like, it's not.
We're
like,
spiking the punch.
who cares if you're
Grad.
not like? The thing is because in the classical world, it's all about being perfect.
Yeah.
Everything has to be fucking perfect.
Yeah.
And it's so annoying. Like,
Well,
I
it's
hate
harmful. It harms like the musician, which in turn harms the music.
it. Yeah, I mean,
Right?
and like I said before, there is so much to
You
learn
can
about it.
respect the music without needing to like be perfect.
Yeah,
And a lot of the best things come from flaws.
Mhm.
Like some great, like legendary musical moments come out of a flaw that someone's like, oops, I did that by accident, and I'm just gonna repeat it so that it doesn't seem like it was an accident, and then it becomes something popular or whatever, you know. And the invention too is that's how a lot of invention happens, is
Yeah.
like trial and error, a bunch of fucking mistakes,
Yeah.
and like that you don't discover anything new by being perfect at what
Yeah.
already exists.
I think there's a balance where it's like I think there is a beauty in like learning to like that's why the classical training is so wonderful, is that learning to be able to do it, all those things perfectly does teach you a lot.
Yeah.
But then you gotta also be able to like fool
Let
around and be
go.
silly and like
Let it go.
I know. I
Mhm.
remember
Play music.
Well, I tried to ask one of my teachers if I could do some improv in like our voice class before, like, I was like, even just like 10 minutes before we start doing all of our repertoire.
Just to loosen up.
Yeah, just like can we just do some improv? Like I'll do some simple,
Just to
like,
get people in their
yeah,
bodies. To
that's
be
the
present
thing,
in
yeah.
the moment.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what's crazy is that it's like singers were in our bodies, I guess, because that's what we do, or using our bodies, but we're so out of our bodies. Like,
Mhm.
there's so many singers, especially classical singers, that are beautiful singers. But they have, it just feels like you're watching them and you're like, you sound pretty,
There's a disconnection.
but
from
like
the soul
I'm
of
so
the- of the
disconnected.
music.
Is this where the it's just music thing comes in, do you think? Because they're so used to repeating just the music. They're not like connected via their like soul to it. They're not like telling the story, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, actually, no, I don't know. My teacher that says that, he's a wonderful performer and he really gets into it. I think to him it just comes really naturally, and so he doesn't necessarily always know.
He's not suffering like the rest of
Well,
us.
I just think there's so many people where like being like, for me, like being like emoting comes naturally. Like when
Yeah,
I'm singing, I
that's
don't have to
important.
like
For me too. Yeah.
I don't have to like try to emote and be connected to things.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But there's so many singers that just don't have that.
yeah.
They sound beautiful. I'm like, you
Takes work.
sound great, but
Mhm.
I'm bored.
Well,
And
and it's like when you have to split your focus between your voice and an instrument, how and naturally, until you get better at doing both, there's a disconnect where you feel like you can't bring the same emotion because your focus is split between two things.
Totally.
And I feel like sometimes in those realms, like it's a similar type of thing where it's like their focus isn't in
It's in the
that moment. It's
technique.
not in
Yeah, it's in the
connecting to that
technique, yeah.
emotion. And yeah, it's one of those things where
Well-
yeah. They like, a lot of it too is like, they'll be singing a song. It's harder too because a lot of times you're singing in another language.
yeah.
So that can also, that like kind of adds another layer.
No shit.
But I think that like, they'll look at a translation of a poem and they'll be like, this poem is sad and now I will sing and be sad. And it's
Mhm.
like, that's not like, through all the acting training that I've done, it's not about the emotion. Like like
it's
they
about
would
the
all
person
like,
you're singing
well,
at.
yeah,
exactly.
and my acting teachers would always say like, emotion is death, because it's like emotions are a byproduct of the things that you're
Mhm.
doing.
Experience.
It's more about
Experiencing. It's
connection.
it's
Yeah.
about like what, okay, yeah, the poem's about like the moon, or the poem's about a dying flower. Oh, that's sad. And it's a symbol of like dying love.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's like, okay, get into that. Like, what would that love?
Yeah.
What was that love? Like, what?
Yeah, it's like that's the surface level. Let's go deeper. Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta like dig in and like create story,
Sad is,
like a
the
story for
consequence
yourself.
of this whole other backstory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like really dig in and like and creating background that necessarily isn't written in the poem or
And
written.
people know when it's not there. Like,
Yeah.
like you said, when you're
You can
bored,
tell.
like people can tell because there's so much exposure and saturation to amazing art and to like real, like raw, genuine shit, authentic art, right? That it
Yeah.
really stands out when it's not. And
I know.
I wish that they taught that because it's to a deficit for those artists that are really talented if they could get the support they need to like connect to the story.
Totally.
There's no acting training
That's
in
crazy.
There should be. I feel like that would be
I know,
especially
that's-
with opera. Like you are acting in a say with classical music in a way too. Like
you
with,
are 100%
when you're singing, because a
acting.
lot of these stories are these classical stories, especially the one when you're singing in another language. A lot of those are really beautiful stories told with a lot of depth and a lot of emotion and a lot of different things going on in them. And so
Totally.
connecting to that
It's
is such an important part of playing the role.
I know, and like when I tried to put these improv like this, I was literally like 10 minutes, and
They're
he
just
was
not
just
down.
like, he was like, I understand, I've done those types of things, and I get the I understand how important it is, but we just don't have time. We have too much music to learn,
Fair.
and
That's
it's
fair
just
enough.
like.
Like, do you understand?
It's like, okay, well,
Do
you
you
obviously
then?
don't understand to the
No.
extent to be able to like implement this and
'Cause
know.
some people might be able to get through all that better if they have 10 minutes to get into their body.
10
you never
minutes
know.
to just be like,
It's all about perception though too, like there's like some
Yeah.
and people, not every person in the class needs the same things
mhm.
to get to the same end goal. And maybe like it with the whole like it's only singing thing is like just the thought came to me of like how we perceive it versus maybe how he means it. Because if it was in a moment where you were stressing, he might have just been saying it to like not have you
Yeah,
stressing.
like,
I'm just using that as an
But-
example for people who
Yeah.
have stripped the story from
Yes,
it and
totally.
are just doing the technique
Yeah.
based
I mean, the way that
approach.
he says it, like it like at the end of the day, it is just singing. Where it's like
Mhm.
it's not that deep. Like where he's like, because I think as singers we really
you
overcomplicate
can get in your
everything.
head, literally.
Yeah, we really overcomplicate.
Well, and a lot of people, they
everything, yeah.
focus so hard on making every note perfect that
Yeah.
in that focus of that perfection,
You're
they're losing the
restricting-
connection
Yeah.
to the voice and
But-
or to the piece itself.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I think. I think that there is a huge stressor on just like learning the music.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, but I think like my teacher, like I think a lot of this sort of emoting and all that stuff, like I said, comes really naturally to him. So
Mhm.
I feel like it's harder for him to really see how some people it
Mhm.
might not come as naturally to them.
Yeah, and that's a hard thing to teach.
but I
Mhm.
don't
Especially
think
if
it is.
but if it comes naturally
Yeah,
Yeah.
to you.
especially when
Yeah.
you've been taught it though through the
Yeah.
acting lens.
Yeah, and but the thing is,
That's
like,
interesting.
yeah, like I think it comes naturally to me, but I think that it's not something that's hard to teach.
Yeah, I've definitely had moments where I've worked with people before and tried to help them connect to their voice. I don't have like classic training, so I don't consider myself a teacher, but I've coached people based on what I
Mhm.
know, and usually just helping them, like not doing it in a professional stance, but just helping people out. And yeah, has been moments where I feel like I've been able to teach it a bit and get them connected to their, but that's also because I'm an emotional motherfucker. So it's like pouring out of me.
Well, that's
it's
what you're
it's
coaching.
harder to
You're-
keep it in.
You're
yeah.
specifically coaching like
Yeah, emotion and stage presence is
That
something I focus
relationship.
on. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so important. I think that's so important to teach, and I just think that like
you need time.
yeah,
to
they don't do
balance
that at
it.
all. Like I don't know like what they do at other universities, but they just don't do that at UVic.
No.
Like
I
it's
feel
just
like as an anxious person too, the weird improv moment would help so much. Like
yeah.
Well,
you
that's what
know.
I'm saying. You need time in both. If you're gonna like put that much focus into one like specific space in your brain, you need to balance it. You need to like have reprieve, and that's why
Mhm.
fucking clowning and
Mhm.
being a silly little goose is so helpful, and improving and stuff too,
Yeah.
because you're still like, you know, connecting to the music or you're connecting to your art, whatever, but you're like just shaking it off for a second so that when you re-enter, you're fresh, you're like reinvested, and your brain has a moment to rest, which it needs in order to process what you're learning in the first place.
Yeah, totally. Well, I did an opera program this past summer, and we did a bunch of clowning and
Mhm.
acting classes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was really wonderful because I was like, okay, there are people out there that really
Mhm.
do value the importance of doing
Mhm.
these things.
Yeah.
And I remember like some of our teachers, some of our voice teachers in the program were like, wow, I wish I was doing that. Like that would be so helpful to me. And there
Yeah.
are these like super
Established
well
teacher,
known,
that's the thing,
established
yeah.
like opera singers. And
Yeah.
they're like, well, I wish I was doing that.
But because they've gone through this pipeline of one singular vision of a thing, so
Mhm.
that you know you're so devoted that you don't branch off as much.
Yeah, there's just like classical world is just so like you do this, and this. Like, and that's like with the grad recitals, they're all the same.
Oh.
They're all
Yeah,
Not
like,
yours,
that would be
Not
yeah,
mine.
yeah, yours
Not
would be different.
Lauren's.
So
You gotta tell us about your recital. But what was your question?
yeah, I do want to hear about the recital. So I'll pose the question, and you can tell us what your recital is going to be like, and then you can answer this question after that. But my question was going to be basically if, as far as like, because you and I have had conversations outside of the podcast about like insecurities and just our the perception of yourself living in these
Judgment,
bodies in this
yeah.
industry in this city in the
Mhm.
performance world, and personally I think there's such value in clowning and theater and stuff for letting go of some of that insecurity
Yeah.
and perception. And so my question is like, how, like, are there specific things that you experienced through doing clowning and doing more theater and doing that improv stuff that has helped you kind of deal with some of that like insecurity, or make that a little bit easier to navigate when it comes up?
Yeah, I think comedy has really, and like learning to be like weird and ugly
Yes.
has like
Imperfect.
made me like love myself more.
Yeah, permission to be weird and ugly is something
Yeah.
that this women especially need more of in
Yeah.
this industry.
Right? Like to be funny and
Mhm.
weird and ugly.
Mhm.
Like I love being all of those things. Like I love it so much because it helps me to like take that power back of like feeling like a woman and having to feel like I have to be beautiful and pretty and poised all the time.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, no, I'm going to be weird and I'm going to like I'm going to like make weird faces and I'm going to make my body all weird.
I'm going to eat jello out of your crock.
See,
Yeah.
I always felt like I avoided being too weird because as someone living in a larger body, like there's such a hole you can get pegged into.
I can see
you know,
that.
like being the fat funny person or being the gross comedy fat person, like, you know, like that's just such a trope. And so like I was always like, you know, you can be I can be funny in my like day-to-day or in my interactions with people or in my stage banter or whatever, but I would never let myself go too far over a certain line. It's like a whole, because I felt like I would just be painting myself with that brush.
Yeah. It's like a whole other level of awareness that you have to be. Yeah. The relationship with my inner child has been like, I feel like it's the closest thing I have to like a sense of like spirituality, because every time I go back to just like feeding that relationship and, you know, taking a step out of like big girl adult Tasha, I actually feel so much more powerful and I feel so much more in control and connected and like sober and aware and like actually like the woman I want to be when I am giving myself time to play and be a complete buffoon. Like our show really was like those are healing spaces for me as like a person who doesn't even have the like the super technical background, but I think any performer has these judgments and has these perceptions, and going on stage being completely ridiculous and still getting a laugh and still getting like approval from the audience or getting like a connection with like other people, not by being perfect too, is like a whole other level too, but like mostly it's feeding.
So I said it to my sister before too, where I'm like, I'm comfortable getting on stage singing and doing burlesque more so than I am just like being a clown or being goofy, because of
laughs
growing
are scary.
up being that like
it's very vulnerable,
but feeling like I was already like a joke or butts of a joke at many times, like through experiences in life where people did do that, right?
Totally.
But it's one of those things, you know. And like, is there something that you would recommend to folks that like are looking to kind of dip a toe into that world of improv and unlocking that like clowny side? Like, you know, what would you say to someone who's like curious about that isn't like we know enough people or connections to be able to kind of suss out where to go for that? Like, what would you recommend that someone
come
do
to Lauren's recital
to get connected to that?
That's a really good question. I think that I feel like the first step would just be like going to shows, like going to improv shows. Yeah. There are lots of improv shows around town.
Yeah, Okay Dope.
Yeah, I was gonna say Okay Dope,
They're
and
so
there's a new one that Dimitri just started.
Yeah, there's also like going to like
I saw something about it, but I can't remember.
Yeah, Atomic Vaudeville does clown classes.
Yeah. They have one coming up in March actually that I might
know.
do.
I also kind of wanted to do it. But yeah, Atomic Vaudeville. I think like going to shows and like seeing how those people interact and yeah, I think going to those shows, talking to those people, and I think doing workshops is really like the best thing. Like
that's the same advice I give people who say they want to do what I do. I'm like, go to shows,
meet
people, talk to people.
Go to shows and do
go
workshops.
to jams.
A place that I've learned a lot about clown too is at music festivals. A lot
Yeah,
of people
there's a place like Otherworld.
Yeah, well, Otherworld specifically, they have a whole place called Clown Town that's run by Priscilla Costa, who's an amazing Vancouver-based clown who I've done workshops. I've hosted her here. She does gutter clown, which is fucking awesome.
I've seen that.
It's adult and it's raunchy, but it's not stupid. So it's not buffon. It's like intelligent. Like you've got a little secret and you're like hiding it from people, and you want you to know, and you can just kind of be like this like kind of darker side of you as a clown for like the adult relationship. I don't know. I really appreciate her perspective on it. But music festivals too are just like a fun space to experiment with different versions of yourself.
Yeah, and there's a freedom because everyone's wearing wacky costumes, and being silly, and
whereas seeking out workshops sometimes feels very formal still.
It really can. That's so fair. And people are also like, you know, they're like, do I want to spend like $250 on a workshop? Like that's a lot.
When I don't know what this is.
Yeah, when I'm like,
So
so I
and
think
some people like it's a lot of them can be not as interactive, and sometimes those interactive ones are where you really can, especially for being able to be silly and let that loose.
I do think though that like even if you don't want to clown like at all, like even if you're not like looking to perform, well just like even if you're not like looking to perform as a clown, I think doing clown workshops, like even if you are like, oh, that seems kind of pricey, it can be just so amazing for like self growth. Like it's not even just about learning to perform as a clown, just like
it heals.
It is so healing because I mean, like there's a lot of different schools of clown, and like a lot of the clowning that I've done has been sort of like really connecting with your inner child and what that your inner child really wants, and just being silly and being an idiot. And I think like all of that is so healing and it's so empowering.
And I've mentioned that to Tash before too, where I'm like, I feel like just getting a little goofier would be good for my healing my inner child.
I think it would be great.
Well, the other day, Lauren, we had a soup night, and it was just like 5 of us at the house, and because we're such nerds about this shit, we just did improv games in our living room. And
that's
it's like,
what I
it
love about this
have
crew of people.
To be a workshop environment all the time to start bringing that stuff in. Like, I'm such a games nerd, and people love board games, but start playing more games that involve movement and involve your body and involve improvising, and just kind of like starting to like get out of the shell of this stagnant
bust out whose line is it anyway, or
freaking
what's the
Stages is my favorite one. People call it fishbowl.
Her name
charades.
It's gonna drive me crazy. There's a very famous, very silly woman who was on like Laughing and everything else, and they reference her a lot in sketches in Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Yeah.
You see how it's looking over there?
Yeah, but that was really fun. We played a game called Bus Stop, where basically you're just two people at a bus stop, and you just have to start riffing off of each other, and I think the one person eventually just has to leave. So you have to make up a story where eventually you're going to leave, and then the next person comes in. Yeah. So we just like keep cycling,
kind of rotates
the friends.
And you come in as like a different character each time, but then the one person stays and then has to interact with.
Oh, that's a funny game.
Yeah.
Oh, Carol Burnett. Sorry.
Okay, yeah.
ADHD so hard right there.
You would know.
No. Just was like, that's her name. Yeah.
I actually,
she's amazing.
I love her.
I
love her
so much. More into her because I hear her.
God, you would adore her.
She's wonderful.
Oh yeah, watch the old stuff too. Like watch all she does.
I'm like, I know I'm gonna go so off the deep end when I start with her, because every female that I look up to is all.
And like, I Love Lucy. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Lucille Ball.
Well, they were like, like I've listened to interviews with Carol Burnett.
Betty White too.
Yeah.
Very silly, goofy character.
Yeah. The funny women of like that generation too had to be so brave.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Especially back then. Like Carol Burnett was doing it when like being loud and being improper in any way was just like such a like there were so many.
It was such a need. Too.
It was
like
a
those
need.
Women
totally.
at the time were probably so like rigid in their lives that like seeing a woman just like having her own show. Well, I Love Lucy, like she had kind of her own show too, and like she did the same thing, and like I remember she said this story that like Lucy like wrote her a note and was like, "You got this, kid," and like ordered her flowers on her birthday every year, and then even the year after she passed, she still got flowers on her birthday.
Oh my gosh,
I love that,
which is insane.
That's so adorable.
And that's actually brings me to another thing that you're looking into is this relationship between women and like our dialogues. So I'm just going to speak about a little bit what you've shared, and then you can share some more too. But you've been wanting to make this art piece that's focusing on like the dialogue between other women, and that's just something that in my experience I see a lot happening in the arts world, because we are pitted against each other and we are forced to be competitive with each other, and I'm like, who's really benefiting from that? Not the women tearing each other down.
Oh, totally.
Right?
And that's why my mantra is collaboration over competition, and I will say it till I'm blue in the face. I say it to everyone I know.
That's why I love you. Yeah, and it's like we all got to lift each other up, and slowly creeping into like I think Hollywood and like some of the like Julia Fox. I'm not like her biggest fan, but she is a woman's woman. Like she lifts up women here everywhere.
It's really
and
important.
I'm so here for that.
I remember like one of my good friends too. Like when we first met, there was this like you could tell that like naturally she thought she had to be competitive. And so one
You
of
thought you
our
were against each other.
early conversations, like because we were at a jam and it was sort of like this like challenge thing. And it's like I grew up around like battle rappers and stuff, so it's one thing to like be like in that realm and whatnot, but like as women we don't need to be doing that in every realm we're in, you know, like if you're in a competitive
It's like a
moment for
territory
fun
thing.
whatever.
Yeah.
But like we were just at like a chill house party. I was like already tired on the couch,
I love
and
this
she was
story.
just like oh yeah, like she sang some riff. I was barely paying attention. She goes, oh yeah, follow that. And then like the guys around me were kind of giggling because they know how I am, and they know that like I don't care to compete. Like I don't give a fuck to compete. And so I just kind of went off. I was like, I don't even know what I'm gonna do. I sang a bunch of shit. And then she was like, okay, yep, you did that. And then afterwards I was like, yo, I know you like didn't mean it to be like a super competitive thing, but like just to like put this out there right off the hop, like we don't need to compete. We're not competition. We're
Yeah.
collaborators. We are peers. We are women who need to work
What a
together.
lesson she
And like
needed
we like, and she's lovely. We still talk all the time to this day. And like she has told me multiple times that stuck with her,
Yeah.
and it's become a thing that. But that is a thing because, and she grew up with a sister who's also musical, so that collaboration or that competition started young.
Oh,
So I
yeah.
get why like it's natural, and especially in certain realms where if most of your vocal experience there's competition for a solo, which I didn't do that a lot. Like I didn't
It's a limited space.
I didn't do a lot of those things where I had to consistently
Yeah.
compete with someone for a solo spot. So I
Nightmare.
just always was like I you know battled in my household growing up. I didn't need to battle outside of it. It was always my thing. So I always wanted to, you know,
Keep the
but yeah,
peace.
we have ended up singing songs together and stuff.
And
And I think it's
that's-
just so important.
Yeah, and that's such a valuable lesson to like what like she's probably looking up to you in that moment because you fucking annihilated her. I would never challenge you in a rap battle. But
Oh, we weren't rapping. We were just singing. But
regardless,
Yeah.
like to have someone that like you see as like a peer and equal or even someone you look up to coming to you and being like, I'm not looking down at you.
yeah,
I'm
I don't
looking
want to
across
knock
at
anyone
you.
off their,
No,
you know,
no.
like it's
We're
not
on
the
the
thing. I don't
same
want to take anyone
page.
down a peg unless they're
Totally.
being a full-on asshole, you know, like
yeah.
I'm
that's
not,
so
I don't,
rare.
and that's the thing it's also just a patriarchal thing where it's like, if we are competing, then they're still holding power. And that's the
Exactly.
thing.
We're
That's one
keeping
thing I just
yourselves busy.
I rejected it so much, you know?
Yeah, totally.
So what's your vision for this creative project that you have in mind around these conversations?
Well, I have like a couple things that I think we're starting with a photo shoot. There was like I guess the inspiration to all of this was like it's about I'm going to be taking pictures of myself in all the things that make me uncomfortable, all the parts of my body that I feel uncomfortable, but like taking the pictures in a very like angelic way that sort of touches on this like unattainable beauty that women seem to have. And so just really like highlighting, like trying to show the like parts about myself that I feel are ugly or uncomfortable, but like still in like a beautiful way. And then along with that, I have an artist who's going to do some figure drawing. I also really want to do some interviews talking
That's
to
a great
women, about like, what are your experiences, with where times in which women have brought you down, like your mothers, your aunts, your grandmothers.
Yeah.
Like how many times have you felt like other women have made you feel bad about your body?
That's the thing. A lot of us, it starts young within the family, and then you
Yeah.
just take it out into the rest of your world, and you also see
Because
it
a
in
lot of-
media. You see it, especially growing up in our
Yeah.
era.
Yeah.
We grew up with I mean, I'm a little older than you guys, but a lot of the movies and shows that came out when I was a kid had that classic stereotypical mean girl, ugly girl gets a makeover to look like Mean Girls, and then she's accepted
Yeah, oh my
bullshit, you know,
gosh.
like, and just, it was always,
Yeah,
and
Mean Girls.
the people who were considered
Who
fat
is-
when I was growing up, it's
and
insane.
Who is benefiting from these women never feeling like they're enough?
Mhm.
It's the men.
And the
Because
companies who sell you shit to make you feel like
everyone's
you're
got an
enough.
upper hand on you if you don't like you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I think, and a lot of this too is just like, I want to like expose that. Like, I feel like
Mhm.
we don't talk about that.
Yeah.
We're not talking about how women are not supporting each other.
Yeah.
We don't talk about that.
Yeah, we don't talk about it enough. And I saw this quote earlier today that said, like, you know, you don't you don't have to constantly be improving yourself. Like you like self-improvement is a great thing, but you don't have to consistently be improving yourself.
Yeah.
It's another kind of capitalistic trick that we've been played in, because if you're consistently wanting to improve yourself, then you're consistently consuming things you think will improve yourself, and a lot of that leads to like consumerism, buying things and or taking classes, getting gym membership, whatever it might be that you think you need to improve upon.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is so ingrained in us that like we then, not maybe us specifically, but we as women will, I see it in the comment section a lot on the Instagram and TikTok. It's almost always women going after other women.
Yeah.
And it's because,
Oh,
you
yeah,
know,
the
like
Karens
someone's put it in your head that
hating on
you needed to
people.
change. So how dare this person
The most horrendous
not
shit.
need to
And
change?
it'll be like
It's
Barbara
so
the Christian, like
Yes,
Reverend's
it's
wife,
always
has
the
the
Christian.
worst comment, like,
Yeah.
I'm going to decapitate
It's
you in your
always the
sleep.
or,
And we're like,
or they're just like,
Jesus,
you know,
Barbara.
they're ripping apart someone's appearance immediately for no reason at all.
Yeah,
You know,
totally.
they're like,
well, I think like, and going back to like the self-improvement thing, it like, think about how many, like, compare it, like how many girlies have their like little routines, their skincare routine. There's like I go to yoga
wish.
all the time. Like, it's all women, you
Mhm.
know, like, and it's all like we're as women, we're constantly told that we need to look a certain way.
Yeah.
And like the guys my age, like, they're eating fucking Domino's every single day,
Mhm.
drinking like 5 beers a night, like smoking tons of weed, and like that's just like that's acceptable for them. But
Mhm.
whereas like as a woman, you don't feel like that's acceptable, because if you do those things, then if you eat pizza every single day, your skin's not going to be clear.
Yeah.
You know, like if you're
Well-
drinking beer all the time, you're going to be bloated. And
Oh
like,
yeah.
you're
Oh,
not,
and there's
you know?
also like the like, especially like from my vantage point of it too, there was like those women who like, oh, it's cute that you're just like sitting in your PJs eating a whole pizza, but if a girl who looks like me does that, the internet will immediately rip me apart. If
Yeah,
I
it's
eat
awful.
anything on internet on TikTok or TikTok live, like I used to live stream back in the pandemic because there was not much else to do. I used to sing on live and have fun or whatever, and one of the reasons I stopped was because it was there was just so many trolls that it just wasn't worth it anymore.
That's so awful.
And people would like troll for the most ridiculous things, like and
And
it was always straight to weight, always straight to those easy target things, and it was ridiculous. And so there's and growing up too, like there was just like eating in front of people was never a thing that like I would always really try not to eat in front of people, or if I did, I was very careful about how I eat it, how much I eat, like da da da.
And I'm so there for like solving that problem on the inside. It's like we're all dealing with the same things together. We need to support each other to get out of this,
Yeah.
because we're not going to change the minds of like the industries that are built on our lack of self-worth and self-love, right? So if we can definitely change it better if we all work together and help support each other. That's why I love your idea, but I also think we need to, like, as much as we expose when it's not gone well, when it has gone well, like when women have supported each other, when
That's
we have
true.
and the
been
growth
together.
of like facing your internal biases, and like, you know, because we all
Yeah.
deal with that, like you know, I've known a lot of people who, you know, they will talk about their body issues and their self-conscious things, and then they'll turn around and pull some internalized fat phobic shit, and they don't even notice because it's so second nature.
Yeah.
So it's like it's about, like you said, dealing with some of that internally, like challenging our own internal biases and dealing with those things, and also like, you know, figuring out how we can support each other as women. And something I love about burlesque and photography, those realms are just some of the most amazing places where I've seen women supporting women and showing them how to embrace their bodies, and you know,
and just like there's nothing sexier than a person who knows that they're sexy. It doesn't actually really matter what they look like. It's the energy that they're bringing, and they feel really good about themselves is the most attractive thing ever. And that's why burlesque is great too. Like,
burlesque is awesome
because it's just breaking.
and because it mixes everything. You'll have a gutter clown burlesque performer.
Yes,
I've seen some crazy burlesques,
Dude,
and from all realms, from
badly.
clowning to like crazy like grunge music vibes going on to like just fully improv,
Well, it was
to
built
all sorts of things.
interdisciplinary. It was built on like comedy
To be
and
mixing everything,
exactly,
and
dance
and
stuff
music
coming
and
together.
everything. Yeah, that's definitely one of those good realms for that, for sure.
Yeah, and you were talking about bringing in like a women's clinic too.
Yeah,
to
I
support
think
this idea.
Yeah, I was thinking of talking to some women's clinics because I think something that also really contributes this is the lack of knowledge that we have about our own bodies.
Dude, yeah.
Like we have
crazy.
so little access to information because
Oh, and they've
doctors.
studied. That's the way they've studied
Yeah.
health and stuff has been done mostly
Or
on
not
men for
studied.
years and years and
Yeah.
years.
Yeah, and they don't tell us like how, like we're pumped, like so many of us are on birth control. Do we have any idea of how it's like actually affecting our
Dude,
bodies?
and the
I
way that
actually had to go off of birth control because it affected me so negatively. I went off it years and years ago,
yeah.
and I actually my first unwanted pregnancy I was on birth control all the time,
Wow.
so
Yeah.
it didn't even do its damn job.
yeah.
But then that's it's one of those things. And
Also-
I recently even learned like I'm 37 years old, and this year is the first time that I've seen it going, and I'm not the only one. Like it's been shared multiple times on social media. The symptoms of women having a heart attack are so different from a male heart attack.
Oh really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they literally don't even. And it's and
Oh
just
my
the
God.
way
Yeah,
that they've
actually,
studied.
I heard that too. Yeah,
Yeah.
women's heart
attack
heart
symptoms are different.
heart symptoms or heart failure, heart disease is the number one killer of women entirely, and it's never been looked into.
Oh my god.
They
yeah.
only research male heart disease. But
Yeah.
looking into the history too of like how our female reproductive stuff too. I'm a history nerd, so I got really into this one podcast that I'm blanking on right now, but I think it's called like Sawbones or something, and it's all about like where medical things started and the
Mm.
history of like birth control and the
Mm.
IUD is fucked.
It's
Yeah.
really fucked
A
up.
lot of it gets tested
Yeah.
overseas
Yeah.
on like third world countries, and it's essentially eugenics because they know it's not going to work and they know it's going to render people infertile, but they're worth the risk.
Oh my
Yeah.
god. Yeah, it's so
Yeah, it's really
fucked
messed
up.
up.
It's super haggard, and it's just all
Well,
based
just how
in the
many
lack
women
of-
grow up not really knowing about like what to expect when you start to come towards menopause, or like they don't
yeah.
talk about it. It's so no one wants to talk about that. That's unpleasant. Talking about your cycle and like what to expect, like and like how that's gonna
postpartum.
be postpartum PMDD. That's a thing
Yeah.
that like people should study more. Like a huge percentage of women, especially neurodivergent women, spend 1 week a month fighting their brain just to stay alive because your brain hates you. It wants to convince you that you do not deserve to be here, and a lot of other crazy symptoms and emotional dysregulation and stuff comes with it, and I struggle with it myself, and it's intense, and I didn't even know the words for it until a few years ago, and didn't even and the research on it isn't a lot, and there's finally more things being researched, but
the things that women just like normalize that we have to deal with when it's like, what if this could actually have just been studied like 50 years sooner and we could have figured it out by now?
Yeah, I wanted to do as part of like sort of like a precursor to the art gallery. I wanted to do a short film.
oh, that'd be cool.
And I wanted it to be sort of like a woman going through like PMS
Mhm.
and just like dealing like, but making it super visceral
Yeah.
and like very like showing how awful it is.
Mhm.
Like when like I've had times when I try to get out of bed and I just am having anxiety attacks
Yeah.
over and over again because I can't get out of bed and I don't know what's wrong, and I'm like, am I depressed again? Like am I like, is this just like my life? Like what is going on?
Is it the big one or
Do
is
you,
it
do
the
you
little one
find
that I deal with all
that
the
this
time?
happens in the PMS window and starts to ease up as you start to actually be in flow of your cycle?
Yeah, well, what happens to me, I realize I know something's hormonal when I like have these really intense, like where I'm super depressed,
Mhm.
like
Intrusive
have
thoughts.
have these super crazy dips, and then around like 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon, it'll like start to go away,
Mhm.
and then
Yeah,
it'll be
'cause
like
your
7
rhythm.
p.m. and I'm like, and I literally feel fine. Like
Yeah.
I feel like that it was like, it's like night and day.
Mhm.
And that's how I know it's a hormonal thing,
Yeah.
because then like the next day or something I'll get like my period and it's just like
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
awful.
It makes me wonder though that like women who lived, before Western medicine, they were all dealing with these things for tens of thousands of years, right? Like there is ancient medicine.
But
for how to
herbs,
deal
yeah,
with all
the,
of these
the
things.
pharmaceutical industry pushed us away from
They
from
did.
traditional medicine.
They also filled all of our food with like hormones and chemicals and shit, which spikes all of our hormones and makes it
Mhm.
even worse. And then also they stripped us of a lot of our like female to female passed down knowledge.
Yeah.
Because we would always look to the male doctor, figure, and
Because they wouldn't let women be doctors.
and they wouldn't
Yeah.
let women in the room when you were giving birth. And for like a decade or two in like the 1900s, or probably like that whole century,
Because they
many
wanted
times,
to take away midwifery.
just put women under when you're giving
Mhm.
birth. You would just be unconscious.
What?
You didn't even know what happened to you.
And there's still a lot of
Yeah.
medical
Oh my God, that's fucked
stigma towards midwifery. Like they try to discredit it,
Yeah.
doulas and midwives, even though they've been doing it. Women helping women give birth has been a thing forever.
I would
since the beginning
way
of time.
rather have a
Long as
doula
humans have
than
been alive.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
And
know.
they used to also do that with like breast. My mom, when she went under for breast cancer examination,
Mm.
they just took her breast and she woke up without it.
Oh my
They
God.
didn't tell her. She woke up and had one less boob, and when
Oh
she
my
went
God.
under, yeah,
That's so
fucked with her it fucked with her self-image big time. And even
No
into her later
kidding.
years, like even when like it became empowering to like rock it as is, she would like insist to the point of like mental meltdown if she couldn't there was a prosthesis insert she had for her bra to make it look like she had two boobs.
Mhm.
And if and they would degrade over time, you have to get it replaced. And whenever it came, like she would have a mental panic
Aw.
meltdown about how important it was to get it replaced.
Yeah.
And no matter how many pep talks or how much I showed her how it was more normalized now, she was like, no, I can't, I don't feel like a woman without this. And I'm
Yeah.
like, man, that's unfortunate.
It's fucked up.
Wild.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing, is like it just gets overlooked so easily. So
Mhm.
yeah, doing more work and like bringing this conversation to light is so important. 'Cause there's probably a lot of people out there that like, I mean, I know I'm going to use my chat GBT, like my OBGYN, so much more these days
Yeah,
because
oh my
I
God.
can't really rely on my doctor. I'm actually dealing with
Dude, my doctor's a gong show.
I'm dealing with my some health stuff right now, and like
Same.
the amount of hustle it takes to get like
It's
an
crazy.
appointment and
Advocating
then
for yourself
get my
is insane.
tests done and
Yeah.
then get a second appointment to get the test reviewed.
Yeah.
And
That's the annoying part. They should have to call you when they get the results. It's so stupid that they can't
Had
call you for 5 minutes when they get the results. I
I'm
had this
getting tested to see
same
if I
fight
have
with
the,
my doctor.
a lot of really serious shit, and I'm just
Yeah.
sitting here like, well,
Yeah, same. I have
that
to go
might
through
be
some
a
of that
thing
shit
in my
too, yeah.
life, and I just
And the
have to, like,
negating
accept.
too, when you're like telling your doctor something and they try to downplay it or negate you out of getting a test and stuff. Thank goodness
Yeah.
for black women on the internet. Like
Yeah.
I'm serious, because it was I was a black woman on the internet
They just
who
started
told
a
me how they
university.
advocated. Like, yeah, the Hillman Talk University is legendary. Look it
Yeah.
up. It's amazing. So
It's
much free
incredible.
education coming from once again, like, just
Mhm.
beautiful black educated human beings, like sharing
Mhm.
knowledge for free as always. And
Mhm.
one of the most amazing things that I learned was when my doctor denies me something, I tell him, okay, well, I want you to put that in my chart and I want a copy of it, that you denied me this test, that you've denied referring me to this because you don't believe me or whatever.
Mm.
And I want to see those
record.
records, even just asking for the records. And one time I made a thinly veiled insinuation that I was so annoyed with his like behavior as a doctor that I was aware of the process of reporting them to the College of Physicians for
love you.
being disregarding your patient's needs. That's the
Yeah.
thing. I worked for MSP. Like I saw people report, like I saw what that looked like happening. So I learned it was a thing I could do. So between that and learning from women who've like, because black women's pain has been dismissed for years. Like,
Mhm. And what they're doing is they're going together and they're
and that's because women are
trying to
talking to
solve
women.
the
Like it's because
problem
women are
from
talking
the
to each other
inside out.
about
yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, we're actually finally talking to each other and having
Yeah.
conversations about like real shit.
yeah. Yeah.
So what's the deal with your grad recital? What's going to be extra magical about it?
Yeah, well, okay, my grad recital, originally I kind of wanted to be like an anti-recital because like I was saying before, the way that recitals are, it's just like basically you get a bunch of repertoire and then you sing it, and it's like the structure of a recital is like
The same.
every time. It's just like it's the person comes on. Most people don't talk. Some people do. Most people don't. They come on, they sing, everyone claps, and then they go off, and then they come back on, everyone claps, and then they sing again, and then everyone claps, and then intermission happens, and then they come back from intermission, they go on, everybody claps, they sing, they leave again, and then they come back on.
The
Everyone
leaving
claps.
after every song makes no sense.
Yeah.
Well, it's
to
not
me.
every song, but it's just like to give yourself a break to like get water and like I don't fucking know. I don't know. It's
Zero banter.
yeah, no banter. No one's talking, and it's just like and all the recitals are that they're all the same.
It sounds like a clinical like surgeon's office.
yeah, it's
So,
it's
like, this is
Fighting
music.
the urge not to talk would make me so tired.
oh god, and it's just like there's so many people that where I'm like, wow, you sound really beautiful, but I'm so bored, and like I just was like, I want to do everything but that, you know. And so my recital, it's kind of become this like it's basically the idea for my recital is that I have like there's like serious Lauren and then there's like clown Lauren. And so my serious self is like trying to put on a serious recital, but then my clown keeps coming in and like
I like that.
fucking shit up. Like
You
she
gotta
keeps,
introduce your clown to the pod.
oh, her name is Scabadini.
I like that.
And yeah, Scabadini keeps just like coming in and like singing stupid songs and like she's gonna be leaving some like very silly things on stage. There may or may not be a dildo on
Yes.
stage at some
Well, I had
point.
a feeling that was coming.
I'm singing like a 1600 song about a dildo and it's great.
How can you not have it? Like,
Yeah.
this is the crazy thing to me. Like, I'm sorry, excuse me, classical program people. You expect me to come on this stage and seriously sing a song from the 1600s about a dildo, and
Yeah.
my creative ass isn't supposed to bring props?
Yeah, yeah, right.
What?
yeah, yeah. It's gonna be very silly. And I think the idea though is that because eventually I'm still kind of working out the full details of this, but eventually they kind of like merge, and I just kind of realized that like I can't keep like fighting these two parts of myself, and I have to just like be myself and do. And then the end of my recital is a bunch of like silly songs, but it's just as myself and not my clown.
And like, what a concept, using a recital as like something to communicate your own actual story, and like it's probably going to be very cathartic and healing for you. It's like, why wouldn't that be the mandated normal thing?
Yeah.
Kind of made me think of like I used to watch like Red Skelton and stuff with my dad all the time back in the day. Do you know who Red Skelton is?
I think
He's
so.
like a comedy clown type guy, but he would do some of that kind of stuff where he would come out and like intend to be serious and have a suit on, and then just start like losing his balance and doing pratfalls and doing silly things. And he has bits where he's like Fuller Brush Man, and he had this like, he had lots of clowny energy about him.
Yeah, it's. I think it's gonna be
It's refreshing, and it's weird that it doesn't happen more.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely gonna be. I doubt that there's ever been a dildo stuck to the stage in the Philip T. Young recital hall, like. But and I was telling my friend that I was gonna do that like in the music program, and she was like, "Are you allowed to do that?" And I was like, "What the fuck are they
I'm
gonna
do what I want.
I literally was like, "What are they gonna do?"
What are they gonna
like,
do?
it's not like I'm gonna tell them that I'm gonna do that.
Yeah, obviously, then they'll say no.
Like, I'm
big
yeah,
forgiveness,
I'm
not
not-
asking for permission over
yeah,
here.
like, and what are they gonna do? Like, don't do that, okay? Like, well, I did, so. Like,
How much art do you think has like not happened because people are like, I don't think I'm allowed, you know? Like,
Yeah,
no, do it
yeah.
anyways.
Yeah, it's gonna be very cool. I mean, it's been interesting. Like,
I'm stoked.
I did a lesson with one of my voice teachers, and I was like, can I do, because I'm doing one of these, like, I was thinking of doing an aria where I'm like switching from my clown self to like my serious self, but I was like, can I just do this? Like, we were working on the aria, and I was like, can I just do it in clown? She was like, yeah. And I did it in clown, and she was like, oh my god, that was so much better than you have ever sung it. And like, it was so cool to like see
The validation.
yeah, well, but just to see how like my clown makes my singing better.
Because you're connected to yourself, yeah.
Because I'm so much more connected to myself, and like I'm just so much more naturally emotive, and like my sound was so much better. And she was like, oh my god, you need to start doing all of your songs in clown.
The clown,
You're like, just
the
you wait,
clown
that's my
isn't the
entire
character. The classical singer is the
Yeah.
character.
Well,
you know, the
yeah,
clown
right?
is you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's like kind of really the idea around it, is like I'm trying to, there is that part of me that like wants to be that sort of like serious classical singer. I do, like, as much as I push back against that, I do still want that, and still feel, I think a lot of it is feeling the pressure to
But
be
you don't want to
that.
have to lose yourself to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you don't have
So-
to give up the clown so that you can do that.
Exactly. So I think that's why I'm kind of like,
I like that.
yeah, the idea is to like, where I'm like trying so hard to like, because part of like throughout the whole thing, I can't find my clown. Like, I keep being like, I've lost her. Has anybody found her? And we keep like chasing her around, trying to find her. And then eventually, I guess I'm kind of working out how I'm gonna sort of transition into sort of like merging the clown and like myself. I've kind of worked with the idea of like maybe just being like, you know what, I'm just gonna give her what she wants, and I am gonna just do some silly songs just as myself, because that's what she really wants at the end of the day. And maybe she'll stop like fucking with my recital if I just do something silly and do what she really wanted to do at the end of the day.
I like that idea, but I do also like Katie's thing of like doing a switch at the end where Scabademi's actually been you the whole time, and then your classical self is the other.
Yeah. Well, I think for
But
me,
they're both.
I think for me the idea though is that I'm both. You know, I am that serious singer that likes to do things that are beautiful and profound and slow, and
Of course, yeah.
but I also am that like really silly, like goofy gal that just likes to like fuck around and like sing about dildos, and like I'm both of those people, and it's
poisoning pigeons in the park.
yeah, and I feel and I feel like I've been pushing against those two, like they've been butting heads my entire degree.
You need to make them merge, kind of thing.
Yeah, I need to make them merge and just be one, because it's like you're not, like we talked about before, like you're so not allowed to be weird in the classical world. Like it's so dumb. You can't be weird.
And it's one of those things where like I've noticed too that like a big part of for me what makes like the soul and the emotion come out in my voice is the fact that growing up it was a place to funnel all the emotions I didn't know how to regulate, didn't know what to do with. So it was always very raw, it was always very open, and it wasn't until like being more on stage and trying to like, you know, do it a little more this way or do a little more that way, that sometimes I would notice also that my singing wasn't where I wanted it to be. And it was, for me, it was just like I gotta just be as raw as possible and let all that shit come out, even if it's gonna come out weird.
And because that's, and I do think that's why people in the industry
that's what connects
though. Yeah, because you're tapping into that rawness all the time though. For like when you commodify that's got to be really hard to balance.
Yeah, totally. I think it's like, but I think a lot of it is about being able to just be like honest and being honest and open and authentic and not trying, because I think where when you try to commodify it, then you're trying to create that,
and it
that's
stands
the
out.
thing too. Commodifying
that's
it
where
never
it
works.
sucks it out.
That's why I feel like most of our pop music sucks these days.
Yeah.
I feel like it's one of those things too where, you know, you just have to let it be what it is and let it come out how it comes out, and you know, I feel like a lot of us do tend to lose connection when we put too much pressure on the commodification of it, you know. And that's one of those things where it's natural, because we're taught in this world of capitalism that like every skill you have should be turned into a commodifiable like a job thing, you know.
Totally.
Boo. I'm just here for a good time.
Just here to play and have fun and sing
I'm
songs.
just here to jam with y'all.
I know. And that's how I feel like I've realized like for so long I was so committed to like being a performer as a career. Like I was like, I'm gonna be a performer, and I don't care if I'm a starving artist. I'm gonna like make my money off of performing. And like so recently I've just been like, what if I didn't make that my main source of income?
It's like redefine what success is.
Well, like,
that's why I had to. That's why like I felt a lot of stress lifted by balancing it with like doing organizing, doing the workshops, doing the hosting and stuff like that. And you know, it came about as you know, out of COVID necessities of doing those things, or just no one else wanting to do the stage banter in a band, and then discovering that I was good at that too. But it took a lot of pressure off the music after being in like multiple bands at once, and like, you know, really trying to do as much music as possible, play as many shows as possible, and still feeling like I wasn't doing enough or wasn't measuring up enough. And like so it's one thing where I definitely accidentally went too far into that realm, and now I'm trying to connect, balance it back, and sing more as well.
Don't want to lose the love.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I feel. Like I feel like I want to try to find a way to like go into something that I love that isn't performance, and only perform the shit I actually want to do. Yeah, because I like man, I don't want to fucking perform at a wedding. Like, I'm sorry, unless it's like my friend or like someone that I know. I don't want to play at a wedding. Like,
Have
that's
done
not-
it. Multiple weddings.
Me
It is
too.
much nicer when you know the people. It
Yeah.
can be awkward when you
Oh
don't
my
know
God.
anyone, because then
I
after
did that once, and I had to sing a country Shania Twain song.
we had to
and I
do
didn't
wagon wheel
know-
at a wedding.
Oh,
They had us do
no.
wagon wheel
I
and
didn't
a bunch of other
get the
kinds of
words
It was
Kinda
fun.
right.
I
I
honestly
had
kind
this-
of love that song.
It
but-
was just funny because it was like the guys in the band were more mad about it than I was, to be honest. But
I got one of the words, like one of the lines wrong in the song. The whole, like the bride was like literally walking down the aisle, and the whole audience looked up at
Oh,
me. I was like
no.
above everyone, and I like didn't stumble. I just repeated a line instead of doing the right
Oh, yeah,
one.
yeah,
but
yeah.
they were all such country
That they knew
diehards.
right
They
away.
knew, and I was
Oh,
like, I'm never
no.
doing this
that's
again.
so
Ugh,
funny.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. It's not even the singing that's the awkward part for me. It's when they like it's the times when in this case it was one of the guys in the band. It was a friend of his, so he knew just the bride and groom and not many
Yeah.
other people. But they were like, "Oh yeah, stay for and eat with us, or whatever, and hang out." And that was the part that was so awkward. I'm like, "We don't know anyone here. This is a
Yes.
special day. These are all your family. Like, this seems odd. Like, it's cool on one level, but also like sometimes I'm just down to sing and leave. Like,
Yeah.
One time I played a wedding, and we lost our drummer last minute. He got
No.
sick,
oh no,
and we were 2 hours outside of my hometown. And my grandpa, who plays the drums,
Sick.
Yes.
showed
that's
up.
the best.
I called him, and then he fucking hung out for the rest of the wedding and got
Yes.
hammered with us.
I love
I
that.
was
love
like,
that.
I love you.
Yeah, I think that like being a performer is just so deified, and like people
Yeah.
don't talk about how rough it. Like I'm in a class right now. It's like business of music. It's a great class, and my teacher, he was like, yeah, I would say that I've like made it in my field. Like, he's a trombonist. He's played with like Dizzy Gillespie. Like, he's played with
Damn.
he's played with all of these like really amazing players. He's like, yeah, I make 30 to 40K a year. I was like, that's rough. Like, that is rough, and that is the reality of being a performer, unless you really, really make it.
Yeah, like the low that's still considered low income to
Yeah.
qualify for a lot of programs.
I was like, that's rough.
Like, you can qualify as low income for programs
That's
in town for
poverty.
that.
Mhm.
Like, it's
And
it's,
music is
it's,
so.
it's not technically poverty, because there is
That's true.
poverty is harder for sure than, but
But like
Yeah.
that's
the way that music is not valued too is just crazy.
well,
And this is
yeah.
a whole other future conversation that we can get into. But just like when the Grammys was on 2 weeks ago, and everyone was like, how dare they put the Grammys in our forefront of our vision, because there's so much political chaos going on. They're just trying to distract us. And I was like, but actually, we need to celebrate the
Yeah.
that's what
arts
art
so
has done for
badly.
years.
Totally.
It's the only way we get through hard times is by
Yeah.
coming
Dude,
together.
Shirley
and
Temple was
fucking singing.
like a highlight for a lot of people through like the depressionary times
Yeah,
and stuff. Like, Shirley
totally.
Temple movies were were
Yeah.
at one point like that kind of stuff. Like, not that's just one example
Yeah.
because I grew up with that
It
example,
feels
but
silly
yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's actually so vital.
And art
but,
is
like,
political a lot of the time. Like, a lot of the
Yeah.
time, like
Yeah.
art, yes, it's an escape, but it's also a way to trick people into hearing a political message in a more palpable
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, yeah.
a more digestible way.
yeah, like
Yeah.
Kendrick Lamar,
And
yeah.
stand-up comedians.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
I think like
a whole thing.
I think it's just so like music is just so commercialized and so
Yeah.
like I don't know. I think that, and I've done so much training on like having to sing other people's music, and like I'm just like, fuck, I don't want to do this anymore,
No.
man. I don't want to have to sing some like I don't want to have to go on stage and sing some like shitty song that everyone loves that I don't love, and have
No.
to learn. Like, I've always, my biggest issue in school with like has always been that I'm really not good at learning music I don't like. Like, I'm just not good at it. It just is
the
like
resistance is high.
the resist it, my brain screams when I sing Bach. I don't like him. I don't like his music. It's not my thing. My
Mhm.
brain screams. And like they're always like, you have to learn to do these things because you might be hired to do them. And I kind of just had this realization recently where I was like, what if I
I'm
didn't?
not gonna take the job.
What if I literally didn't? What if I
Mhm.
actually did the shit that I fucking want to do?
Well, dude, yeah. For me, music is all about the people that I meet. It feels like a tool to unlock like
Yeah.
new environments for myself, to
music
meet
was a
dope
way for me to
people.
confidently be in social
Yeah.
circles with people that
And that's
otherwise,
wealth.
like, growing up feeling like I was less than,
Yes.
there was a lot of spaces I felt like I didn't fit in, but my voice got me there.
Yes.
My
Mhm.
voice made me fit in. My voice got me in the door. And I have seen it firsthand. This is something Greg and I have talked about before, where like people who have not given me the time of day
Yeah.
and like ignored me in a party or a scene, and then a jam's broken out and they've heard my voice, and then all of a sudden
Yeah.
they think,
They're
you
your
know,
best friend.
and where like someone even at one point said, you just got a lot more interesting, and I was like, well, you didn't, you know. And
Yeah,
they
you
went
got
from
a
like
lot
not
less
giving me the
interesting.
time of day because I wasn't someone they
Dude,
wanted to
oh,
hit on or
God.
sleep with at the party, and ignoring me, to like calling me Aretha all night, and like, if you know, I sassed him
Yeah.
up and down, and you know, he was friends of friends, and we became friends anyway. But it was, the way we met was really hilarious, and I roasted him for it throughout our entire friendship. I never
Yeah.
let him never let him let it down.
Yeah, no,
Good.
But yeah.
yeah, just it's so like this idea of the performer that like performs all of these songs and like does all, like, it's just so deified. Like the gigging musician is just like that's what we like strive to have. But then, like, I know people who have got there. They
I know
are
so
gigging
many
musicians.
of them, and they make amazing songs of their own, and they
Yeah.
never get to play them because everyone just wants them to sing top 40.
Exactly. And they're like, I know people that are gigging musicians, and they're like, I just don't know if I want to do this anymore, because it's just like, how fulfilling is it at the end of the day? Like, but I mean, I think there are gigging musicians that love it, and I think it's
Yeah.
amazing. Like,
Oh
not
yeah,
to
it's so many of
discount
them. They
anyone
just
that
love
does
it. Like
that.
those
It's a
guys I know
balance,
downtown,
though.
they
Yeah.
love that. A
Like,
lot of that
yeah,
stuff.
not to discount anyone
No,
that
no,
does
for
that
sure.
and likes that. But I just think that, like, it's just though there's all, like, when you're training to become a performer, it's just like kind of this like all or nothing
Yeah.
thing where they're like, you can be a performer or a teacher. That's it. We're not going to
That's
talk
one-
about anything
That
else.
is definitely a lot of the way that they
Yeah.
pitch it to you, and that's why I was very appreciative to Yogi at Canoe, because he always let my band play our own songs as well as the covers.
Nice.
Because he was like, oh yeah, they're fun, like, you know, but and it was like, and he would let other bands do that too, and it was
It's
one of the few places where
cool.
like your two sets didn't have to be full covers the whole
Yeah.
time, you know.
Good. And I just, if I could end on a note, because I do think we've talked for a long time,
Probably,
which
I
I
know.
totally expected, and I'm not mad about it. Would just be like, oh my god, the point. What was I gonna say? Oh,
That's how you know we've been talking for a while, when we start having trouble finding our points or losing our thoughts.
Just rambling.
but basically, my point is like to sum up, like the way that the industry really has ripped off artists is because they know we're gonna make art no matter what,
yeah.
That's the
and they've
thing.
taken that for
Yeah,
granted.
they're
They
like,
and
"Oh,
they
you should
they use your passion against you a lot of the
We're
time,
never
because
gonna
they know
stop
that you're
singing.
gonna, and it happens a lot in our very own town, where like
Yep.
they take advantage of the fact
The
that they
cover
know you
band.
want to be part of it, they know you want to
Mhm.
be there, they know you want to be in
Mhm.
that industry, in that scene or whatever, and that you know, at some point you'll be forced to say yes to something below a survival value, you know.
Well,
Mhm.
and it's like this idea of like having to feel grateful that at least you're like,
Mhm.
I've had teachers be like, well, like you should just be grateful that at least you're getting paid to sing.
Yeah.
Thank you for the
gruel. May I have some more, please?
Yeah, like why
Like,
don't you be grateful about like, or what if I just like actually enjoyed what I did? Like, is that a crazy
attitude,
thought?
Yeah, like gratitude is important,
Mhm.
but the more that we like justify not making a living off of it, the more it happens.
That's the thing.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. Like, why? I think it's like so important to venture into like other things that are around it, like learning how to do
Support it.
other skills.
That's
Mhm.
I'm
You
right
know,
there
and
with
it's
you.
just like, why do we have to be like, why do I have to schlep it singing some like shitty fucking early music that I hate? You know what I mean? Just so that like people are satisfied, like, and they give me, like, I sing at churches and I love it. Like, I think it's beautiful. I get paid to be there. I'm not personally a religious person, but it's just like I have to sing a lot
well,
of music.
church is so important because we all get together and sing. But
Yeah,
Sorry,
but like,
finish your
you know,
point.
like I'm just like a lot of the music I'm like, oh god, this is so rough, but like I'm just here to get paid, you know. And it's just like, why do we have to like do that? Like, why? Like, literally, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this to ourselves?
Yeah.
Like, it's just, it's so pushed on us, and I just
Yeah.
think that, I don't know.
yeah. Well, if you guys wanted to stick around for more lore and more and stuff, where can you be found online? Plug your pluggables.
I only have Instagram. I wish I like recorded music because I want to, but I don't have
Soon,
anything
maybe.
recorded. Yeah.
But if it were to go out there, where would it go?
Where would my music go?
I
You
mean,
should
like,
you should get a hip hop producer to give you a hip hop beat and do some classical shit over a hip hop beat.
Yo, my god, I would.
Classical clown hip hop
Yeah.
song. I'm here for
Yes,
it.
That'd be
So here
fucking
for it.
sick.
I'm super here for that.
Yeah, I guess
Hip-hop
like
producers,
just
hit
on
us up.
Instagram. My Instagram is _JAYPEG _. Yeah.
then you also have your production page.
Oh, I also do have a production page. Whoopsies. Fuck, what is my production page?
Steinman Productions.
I think it's
Tasha knows
yeah,
everything. I love
I
it.
think it. Yeah, I guess I don't have to give the exact. Just look up Stienman Productions.
You'll find
yeah,
it,
it'll
yeah.
be tagged in your JPEG
Yeah.
account.
Also, if you
but
just look up Lauren Stienman on Instagram, I will also come back.
yeah,
Pull up. You don't have to.
Yeah, and
put
we'll
in the
drop some
weird
things in the
fucking-
description.
we will. It's
Yeah.
just good to know where to
Yeah,
follow
it's good
you,
to put
and
it out here.
because I want to make this podcast like a way that we all connect the city a little bit better, and
Mhm.
we
Yeah.
have people listening from like all parts of town that might want to reach out from their experiences too. And I think this is like the cool part of the arts communities, that we usually have intersections with so many different realms, like the
Yeah.
classical, clown, music, jamming worlds just need to get together more.
Yes, I also have
Yeah.
an art page, but I think it's
Ooh.
also Steinman Art.
Ooh, I didn't even know that.
But yeah,
That one escaped me.
that one did escape you. How could you not know? No, it's okay. I just post on there 'cause it's fun.
And keep tuned for your art show, because that's I think we're gonna work on that together through the
Yeah,
collective, and
for
we'll make
sure.
sure that gets quite widely broadcasted.
Pull up to my grad recital April 6th, 7:30.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck yeah,
Pull
I'm
up.
gonna be there.
It's gonna be free. It's free.
Oh yeah, there'll be
So,
dildos and clowns.
There will be
Where is
dildos.
it?
Honestly, that sounds like a
Is
great
this at
time.
UVic?
at UVic at the
theater?
Philip T. Young Recital Hall.
T. Young.
I know.
I'm
Um,
so down.
It's gonna be great. There's
Yeah.
gonna be dildos on stage and clowns and lots of screaming, probably. I don't know. My clown likes to scream, so
We're
I
doing a
love that.
double date with her and her boo, and me and my boo, and we're all gonna get clowned up on Friday and take photos for her recital.
That's a great
gonna be
idea.
great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks for chatting.
Yeah, this was great. Thanks for
I
coming.
could
last
keep
minute.
talking for forever, but I
Yeah.
have to edit this. So I'm not
Yeah,
gonna do that
exactly.
to
Yeah,
myself.
yeah. You gotta edit the video. I gotta edit the audio.
yeah.
Yeah, but no, it's been good. Actually, it's gonna make it easier to edit because we stopped and started, so I can just insert the heavy herds that I've got. Thank you for listening to Squish. We didn't say anything like that. Oh, right. You used the